So, let's begin with today's message. Reflect, renew, rise up. My purpose today is to support you in gleaning the blessings that you experience as you reflect, renew, and rise up. You know, the human condition is that we're just too busy sometimes to reflect, renew, and rise up. And we wonder why our lives don't improve. The spiritual solution is to reflect deeply beyond the surface of things, renew by releasing the old story, the old thoughts, the old attitudes, and to rise up from the ashes into a new story with new thoughts and attitudes. Over 2,000 years ago, on a Friday around noon, on Golgotha, the place of the skull, Jesus of Nazareth was crucified. Over 2,000 years ago, on a Sunday morning, the tomb in which Jesus had been buried was empty. Jesus Christ was resurrected. Do you hear the difference? Jesus of Nazareth was crucified. Jesus Christ was resurrected. And there are no exceptions throughout our lives, wherever you and I are, and whenever we go through a crucifixion-like experience, wherever we are, we can roll away the stone of self and allow our Christ self, our awakened self, to rise above those crucifixions. So Christ in you, Christ as me, Christ as you, is risen today and every day. Every time we put on the Christ. And still I rise. Every time we meet crucifixion-like experiences by raising our human consciousness to Christ consciousness. And still I rise. Every time we choose to rise from a material, sense-oriented lack and limitation consciousness to an awakened self, Christ consciousness. And still I rise. Every time we choose to get off the cross of fear, lack, and limitation, resurrection happens. And I think we need a bumper sticker that says, resurrection happens. So Easter is not just a celebration of Jesus' resurrection over 2,000 years ago. Easter is a celebration of ourselves. Throughout the year, every time we rise up and overcome crucifixion-like experiences of any magnitude. Easter is an everyday spiritual practice to the extent we reflect, renew, and rise up. So let's chat a little bit about reflect. To reflect deeply, that means to reflect beyond the surface of things. It means not taking a spiritual bypass, but to reflect deeply on the crucifixions and the resurrections of our lives. To not let go of a crucifixion until it blesses you, until it blesses me. I'm going to, not let go until it blesses me. So what can we learn from a time of reflection? Well, when life as we knew it changes irrevocably, we experience periods of entombment and reflection. So it is in the tomb where there is more, or we learn that there is more to the story. And we have an opportunity to reflect on it, to sit in the question until we learn from it, until it blesses us. Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh says, no mud, no lotus. The flower, when it wilts, becomes the compost. The compost can help a flower again. The roots of the lotus flower go deep into the mud, while the flower rests on the surface without getting wet or muddy. The gritty, tenacious mud just below the surface forces us to go deep. And we can use these muddy times as an opportunity to dig deeper into our spirit and discover strength and depth of compassion. So no mud, no lotus, and no crucifixion, no resurrection. Renew. We renew by releasing the old story, the old thoughts and attitudes. I like to think of renew in the sense of replacing something that was worn out, run down, or broken. Like those old thoughts and attitudes and ways of being that we've not been willing to release. Like prayers of denial and affirmation, we must pull weeds before we can plant flowers. We must create the space for the new growth. Usually on Good Friday, I lead us in a burning bowl ceremony in which we write on a paper cross all the crosses that we've been carrying or hanging on. And then we light the paper cross from the Christ candle and place it in a burning bowl. We release so we can renew. In order to step through the darkness of the tomb into the light and into a better life, something has to give. Something has to be removed. Something has to be broken through. We must let go of the old and release anything that grows between our heart, ourselves, and the world. Life is full of illustrations of release in order to renew. The power of seeds releasing or shedding their shell and bursting forth from darkness. The cracked pot that waters flowers on the path. The broken heart that lets the inner light shine forth. The chick breaking through the shell of the egg. The beetle transforming into a dragonfly. The snake shedding its skin. The transformation of the caterpillar into a butterfly, taking flight. The tenacity of flowers that push through the cement. By the way, do you know how to transform a rock to a grain of sand? Remove it from your shoe. Think about how a tiny pebble in your shoe feels like a rock. But how often do we keep walking around with that pebble in our shoe? We've got to stop. We've got to remove it. Regardless of its size, release, remove the stone of separation, blame, fear, other people's stones that are not ours to carry. And then we can rise up. We can rise up into a new story with new thoughts and attitudes. Unity minister and author Ernest Wilson says, "If you've come as far as the crucifixion, press on to the resurrection." In 12-step rooms, we say it this way: don't leave before the miracle happens. In her book, Safe Passage, Words to Help the Grieving, Molly Fumia defines resurrection as the reversal of what was thought to be absolute, the turning of midnight into dawn, hatred into love, dying into living anew. If we look more closely into life, we will find that resurrection is more than hope. It is our experience. The return of life from death is something we understand at our innermost depths, something we feel on the surface of our tender skin. We have come back to life, not only when we start to shake off a shroud of sorrow that has bound us, but when we begin to believe in all that is still endlessly possible. Easter is about knowing that although Fridays happen, Sunday is coming. Endings are not final. They are part of an endless cycle of life and death, hope and despair, beginnings and endings. Every day, not just once a year on Easter, we have an opportunity to rise up, not just out of bed, but out of our old thoughts, attitudes, and stories. So there's a lovely story that originated with Maurice Nicole in the 1950s. And then Jacob Needleman popularized this metaphor in Lost Christianity and named it acornology. And it was retold by Cynthia Bourgeois in her book, The Wisdom Way of Knowing. And it goes like this. Once upon a time, in a not so far away land, there was a kingdom of acorns, a myriad of acorns, nestled at the foot of a grand oak tree. Since the citizens of this kingdom were modern and fully westernized acorns, they went about their business with purposeful energy. They engaged in self-help courses and seminars called Getting All You Can Out of Your Shell. There were woundedness and recovery groups for acorns who had been bruised in their original fall from the tree. There were retreats and spas for oiling and polishing their shells and various acornopathic therapies to enhance longevity and well-being. One day, in the midst of this kingdom, there suddenly appeared a naughty little stranger who apparently dropped out of the blue by a passing bird. He was odd, capless and dirty, making an immediate negative impression on his fellow acorns. And crouched beneath the oak tree, he stammered out a strange and wild tale. And pointing upward at the tree, he spoke to all that would listen to him and said, "We are that." Delusional thinking, obviously, the other acorns concluded. But one or two of them continued to engage him in conversation. "So tell us, how would we become that tree?" "Well," he said, pointing downward, "it has something to do with going into the ground and cracking open the shell." "Insane," they responded. "That's crazy. Why then we wouldn't be acorns anymore." And that's Easter in a nutshell. And so again, if y'all could mute yourself, that would be great. And so let's just take this into a meditation on the Phoenix Rising ritual. And we're going to keep the meditation on Facebook Live as well. So the Phoenix Rising ritual uses the image of a mythological Egyptian bird, the phoenix, rising renewed from the flames to help us gain greater freedom in our lives. So for those of you on Facebook Live, just imagine and reflect on an image of a phoenix rising from the flames and ashes. And for those of you on Zoom, we're going to give you an image to reflect on. So reflect on this image of the phoenix rising on the screen. And so I invite you, as we wait for the phoenix to appear, to just begin observing the breath. Allow it to find its own rhythm and pace. Allow each breath to relax the body, still the mind, and open the heart. And as you reflect on the image, either on the screen or in your mind, hear the words, "And still I rise," inspired by the poet Maya Angelou. And then silently speak these words to yourself. "And still I rise. And still I rise. And still I rise." And then allow your body to respond to these words. Find yourself reflecting, renewing, and rising up. Continue seeing in your mind's eye the phoenix rising. The miraculous bird, the phoenix, was the embodiment of the sun god, According to legend, the bird lived for 500 years and then burned itself to ash on a pyre. But the bird did not die. It rose in youthful freshness to live again. The phoenix is often used as a sign of immortality. So let the phoenix remind you now of your winged, transcendent self, the part of you that is immortal. You, as the phoenix, are a miraculous being. You, as the phoenix, can rise from the ashes to the freedom and freshness of new life. In unity, our focus is on Jesus and rising into the Christ consciousness of freedom and the oneness of all life. Jesus showed us beyond a doubt that we are more than our minds and bodies. We are spiritual beings clothed in a beautiful body with a wonderful creative mind. It is through this powerful connection of the mind, body, and spirit that we are transformed. This is the time to celebrate our resurrection. In order to do this, we must let go of limitations so that we may release more fully the God power within and all around us. It is from the powerful presence within you and all around you that you are transformed. You are the creation, clothed in flesh. All freedom begins with your awareness and conscious connection to the transcendent within you. The thoughts held in your mind at this moment are providing that connection. In every one of us, there are thoughts and feelings that keep us from experiencing freedom and conscious contact with inner wisdom. So I invite you to just let come to your mind some of what you may want or need to release, so you can rise out of the ashes. Some of these ashes may be insecurity, anger, guilt, perfectionism, worry, procrastination, anger, guilt, perfectionism, blame, impatience, envy, indecision, or jealousy. These are normal to feel on occasion, but any of them in excess can begin to limit and consume your life energies. In your thoughts, briefly reflect on what behaviors you would like to turn to ash and rise from renewed. Affirm in your own mind, my winged self transcends and overcomes even the most difficult or long-term problems. My winged self transcends and overcomes even the most difficult or long-term problems. I rise as the phoenix out of the ashes to new freedom. In the next moments of silence, again, let come to your mind a word or two that symbolizes this freedom. Let come to mind a word or two that symbolizes your transformation. Maybe it's a word such as acceptance, generosity, faith, humility, trust, forgiveness, love, patience, praise, honesty, action, self-reliance, laughter, life, order, strength, truth, spiritual awakening. Just be guided to the word or words that best describe the qualities you would like to express after arising from the ashes. And let the words come to you in a few moments of silence. Remember these words and keep them in your mind. Say them to yourself several times. And after the meditation, write, "And still I rise," along with the words symbolizing your freedom and transformation. Write them on a small piece of paper and carry it with you each day in your purse, wallet, or on your smartphone. Look at it often and reflect on the phrase and the words inscribed on it. Each day is another opportunity to know your freedom, to rise again. And I invite you to say, "And still I rise," 3 times. And still I rise, and still I rise, and still I rise. Now take a moment to feel the power of those words moving through you from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. And as we gently bring our attention back to this time and place, silently say, "Thank you, risen Christ that I am, that when I open my eyes, the transformation will have begun in me. Thank you, thank you, thank you, that it is so, and so it is. Amen." So through this resurrection ritual, you have had the opportunity to reflect, renew, and rise up. You have taken yourself from the cross. You have freed yourself to respond differently to life. You have been reborn. As you prepare to go back into the outer world in which we have our human experience, know that anytime you feel crucified, you can decide to get off the cross. Let go of the struggle and allow the resurrection to occur again. And as you do, you will feel a lighter feeling in your body, the feeling that you're probably experiencing right now after going through that ritual. Your mind will become more relaxed with a gentle, creative focus. Your spirit will be open to experience fully the free and unlimited joy that is here in this moment, right now. You will become more in touch with the excitement of being alive, hearing, seeing, touching, smelling, breathing in the awareness of life, free and unlimited life. And as you do, you will realize you are free, you are unlimited, and there is absolutely nothing that binds you in any way. And I am grateful it is so, and so it is, and so I am, and so you are. Hallelujah.